This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
Yeah, what's up? Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down districts 5 and 6 week in, week out in the state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, joined as always by Sean Kane. What's up? What's up, Mr. Citizen Kane?
Not too much. Just trucking along here. It got kind of sunny for a minute here in Pocatello, and that was kind of nice. But I don't think it's going to stay that way. It's supposed to snow next week, but yeah, been pretty busy. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, these weather patterns are driving me nuts. It'll snow 2 inches and melt off, and then it'll snow 2 inches and melt off. I'm done with the wet slush.
I'm done with the shoveling. I've decided that unless it's a ton, I'm gonna shovel because my house is right in front of the bus stop, so I want the kids to be able to walk to the bus stop. But if it's not a ton, hopefully their parents send them in boots.
You're so evil. That's such a horrible thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's across the street, but a lot of them have to walk by my house to get here. You know, I'm not the neighbor like that's my football now because it's in my yard. But I've had a lot of footballs and soccer balls in my yard, and this summer we had some arrows because the neighbors next door were practicing their archery. So there you go.
All righty. Very interesting. Okay, well, let's hop in and talk about, I will mention a couple of housekeeping things right off the bat here. Usually you can tune into this Prepcast on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. Not gonna lie, Sean, we're in some beef right now with Facebook, and so I'm having problems uploading videos to Facebook. We can do everything else still, but I don't know, for some reason having a hard time with the videos on Facebook. So if you want to watch this Prepcast right now, the only way you can do that is on YouTube. Hopefully we get this fixed soon. We've been talking to people from Facebook for like 2 weeks about this, but this will segue into what I wanted to talk about, and that is the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel. That's right. We've got a YouTube channel. It's pretty awesome, actually. All of our Prepcasts are on there, all of our state preview shows. We're starting to put now, we go to different games and different competitions, and we shoot highlights, and we put them up on our social media, the IdahoSports.com Instagram account, and we do Facebook stories. And well, now they've got what's called YouTube Shorts. It's kind of the same thing. So we posted, I'm not joking, we posted a play from like the Middleton girls basketball game last night. It's already got 1,000 views and it's a YouTube short. It's like 10 seconds. So we're starting to do that a little more. And so as we get into the new year, 2023, Sean, we all set goals, right? Personal goals, professional goals. I think it's important to set professional goals for yourself with the start of a new year. And my professional goal that I have set for myself at IdahoSports.com is to get 1,000 subscribers to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel. We are at like 600 and something right now. So we're like 2/3 of the way there, but we need everybody's help and support to push us across the finish line. It's super easy. You just go to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, click on the little bell icon, and you're subscribed. It's easy as that. So Sean, will you subscribe to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel?
Absolutely. I think I already do. I mean, I get on and watch them all the time. That's typically how I consume the other Prepcasts is through YouTube. But yeah, YouTube, everyone knows YouTube. And I mean, here's the caveat to that. If you're at school and you're obviously studying very hard, you can get on YouTube at school. You know what I mean? You might not be able to go on Facebook at school, but you're studying, some geography, but you have a little free time, you could hit that subscribe button on YouTube because it's a little more accessible in some schools' internet.
Yes. and so with you saying yes, I can I'm already subscribed. My next question to you is, can you create a burner account and also subscribe using that burner account?
I've got a few emails that I use, school, personal, the Kane 182 is a very popular username. So if you see the 182 Kane, it's probably some sort of me.
Yeah, it's Con Shane is your alias. Con Shane instead of Sean Kane.
I don't want to get us in YouTube trouble, but
Yeah, that's the last thing we don't want to lose our YouTube pipeline either with video. Of course, you can also listen to this podcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts. The reason why I bring up the video version of this, Sean, is because we've got a highlight that we're going to show here in a little bit. And you're only going to be able to see that if you tune into the video on YouTube. So there you go, a little YouTube exclusive content. But this is where I wanted to start, Sean, was the game that you and I were on the call for last night, East Idaho game night on IdahoSports.com. We were from I don't think they have an official name for it, but I'm going to call it the Palace since it's home to the Royals.
There you go. Yeah, the castle, maybe. I don't know, Palace. That's a pretty good. The Royals. I was trying to think what's a royal, but I think they have a lion mascot I was seeing on some stuff, but
yes. Yeah, well, so yes. And so we were at Grace Lutheran high school last night, obviously private Christian school. So the Royals, of course, there's all the great kings in the Bible, King David. And I think that's probably the tie in there, right? David, didn't he take on a lion? Or no, that was Daniel who took on a lion.
I thought you were going to go David and Goliath, because that's kind of what we had on store last night was a little David versus a Goliath, I think. But yeah. And that was a good game. We had, we were obviously at Grace Lutheran, and they're taking on conference favorites Rockland, and Grace Lutheran's third in the conference. Rockland, obviously number one, the returning state champions, and it was a great game. And I was thinking about, I knew we were going to talk about this, but what really came to the forefront of my mind is for both teams how great the sportsmanship was. There was two incidences. One Rockland player went down. The Grace Lutheran guy defending him never left his side, and they were playing. And you're the one that picked up on this, but they were playing 4-on-4, and the Grace Lutheran player never left his side until he was attended to. Just really great sportsmanship. And then a Grace Lutheran player hit the deck later on, and they all stopped and made sure it was all right. And and sometimes in the bigger schools, I don't know if you get that sportsmanship that kind of sportsmanship vibe. I mean, most schools have really good sportsmanship, but it was very unique, I kind of thought, and really outstanding by both teams on their sportsmanship side of things in that game. So that was a big standout for me.
Yeah. So last night we did this boys basketball game, Grace Lutheran hosting Rockland. And yes, the incident you're describing is Abraham Held got poked in the eye. As he and Garrett Grayson, who's a great freshman center for Grace Lutheran, they kind of collided going for a loose ball, and Abraham got poked in the eye. And so he kind of, hit the floor. And meanwhile, Grace Lutheran got the loose ball. They're fast breaking the other way, and Garrett Grayson never left his side. So they're playing 4-on-4, and I don't think the officials realized until, after a couple of shots had gone down. And then they finally stopped play. And then, yes, towards the end of the game, Matt Samuelson for Grace Lutheran went down, kind of stepped on.
Yeah, I think he stepped on another player. He went up for, kind of a layup and fell down on another player's foot is what it looked like to us. And yeah, he went down, and both teams kind of immediately just stopped before the refs did. Will Argyle of Grace Lutheran was about to shoot, and he kind of, double dribbled and stopped because he was down in pain. So it was just a nice scene to see. But all that aside, it was a close game. In the first quarter, Grace Lutheran came out with some hot shooting from, who you just mentioned, Samuelson and Kirkpatrick of Grace Lutheran hit some threes, kept it within 2 in the first quarter. But Rockland flexed their muscle per se in that second quarter with defense and just unreal offensive rebounding to kind of the breakaway there, and we're able to kind of put that game away. But Grace Lutheran never went away. I mean, they're a good team. They, it would have been easy to kind of get down and let that game really, really get out of hand badly, but they were pestering Rockland enough that Rockland had to put some starters back in. You know what I mean? There's times at that game where Rockland is kind of clearing getting some bench players some minutes, and they kind of they kept just kind of pestering around like that one fly at the picnic, right? That just won't go away no matter what you do. They kept going, and they had to put a couple starters back in, Coach Shea of Rockland even said he goes, everyone is on this buzz about we won last year, and he said to him, he's like, I'm not even thinking that we've got to go out and win these other games, and just he had just a different mentality going into that game, and it was a fun outing.
Yes. So Shea Neal, the coach for Rockland, you're right. They're taking everybody's best shot this year. Rockland has only lost once. It was to Wood River, a 4A school, and a pretty darn good 4A school way back in the first week of the season. Rockland has pretty much wrapped up the Rocky Mountain Conference title in boys basketball. And as we talked about, Rockland's still the favorite there, but there's a second spot to state that is available. And I really do think it's going to come down to like Water Springs, Grace Lutheran, maybe Showban if they get hot at districts, but Grace Lutheran is right there. They played Water Springs all the way back in their season opener.
Yeah, first game.
Lost 29-28. It was either 29-28 or
28-27, I think it was.
Yeah. It was neither team got to 30. It was a 1-point game, and it was the only time they played each other this year. It was a conference game. It was right out of the gates. Which is tough because the league is so big. They had to front load the schedule with those conference games. But I fully expect Grace Lutheran and Water Springs to be battling at districts for that second spot to state. For Rockland, meanwhile, they're continuing to sail on. They did get the win by double digits last night. Brandon Neal was a monster underneath, as was Teague Matthews, our IdahoSports.com player of the game. Sean, he had, what did he finish with? 19 points
and 14 rebounds, 1 block, and 1 big time two-handed slam. And he had the stat lines, but he's a big time defender. He's causes a lot of problems. For his dunk, he blocked the shot and then ran the court to get the dunk. So they've got a lot of players, and he's 6'5", and he looks 6'5", and he's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah. So here is the play that we were talking about last night. This two-handed slam from Teague Matthews in transition.
Blocked by Matthews, and they're out quickly. And Matthews going to look for the dunk, and he gets it. 38-15 Bulldogs, 47 seconds left. There's your dunk, Brandon. The two-handed slam.
So there you go. I was saying basically it's not really a Rockland game until Teague Matthews elevates and throws up the dunk. I remember last year they were playing in Du Bois against Clark County, and Teague's brother Wes Matthews was on the team, and he's since graduated. But Wes threw up an alley-oop to Teague, and it was pretty fun to watch. So.
Yeah, pretty dynamic. You got the Perman brothers are pretty good too. Brigham Perman, kind of the ball handler, really good. Drive to the basket, penetrate, kind of open things up, and and the big thing, I think we even said it multiple times on the broadcast, is they're just long and lengthy, and that's a tall, for that size of school, the smallest division, they've got some tall dudes there, and they're going to be able to cause some problems for a lot of teams. And I think the biggest game probably for them, and that's what Coach Shea was saying, was Richfield, right? It's coming up, and they're undefeated right now, and he was really looking forward for that matchup later on the season. So that will be kind of their measuring stick as he kind of was looking at it down the road.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. Richfield is undefeated. They're 10-0, and they're on a gauntlet of a conference. There's a possibility Richfield doesn't even get to state because Richfield, Dietrich, and Camas County all play in the same district. They're all top 10 teams in 1A D2 boys basketball. Only one bid to state. And so Camas County, of course, played Rockland in the championship last year and lost. Richfield, we'll see if they get there. They beat Camas County last night, actually. In their first battle. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to be at state to face Rockland potentially for a championship, but whoever comes out of that fourth district, is going to be a tough team for sure. So that's what's going on at the 1A D2 level. Let's climb on up to 3A, 4A. We had another game last night on IdahoSports.com, East Idaho game night from Shelley. Sugar-Salem was taking on Shelley in their annual rivalry game in boys basketball, and Sugar starts hot, right? They come out gangbusters. They're leading 18-8 after the first quarter, and then all of a sudden it's Shelley who can't miss in the second quarter, to the point where Shelley grabs the lead at halftime, 30-25. Then the third quarter swings kind of back to Sugar-Salem. Christian Gordon was the IdahoSports.com player of the game. He finished with 16 points for the Diggers. 11 of his 16 came in the third quarter. Sugar kind of re-grabbed the lead and then got just enough breathing room between Shelley where every time the Russets would get back to within 3 or 2, the Diggers would come down and hit a shot, and Sugar ultimately ends up winning by 5, 49-44. And the Diggers, Sean, very quietly are 9-2, and they have won 3 of the last 6 3A state championships. They won 3 out of 4 from 2017 to 2020. And so I don't know, are the Diggers back?
I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, and I feel
it's
like
a loaded question, right?
We've kind of beat this thing to death, but there's another team in that conference that isn't doing too terrible either, and that's Teton. Teton is, I believe, 10-0 or 10-1, 10-1,
10-1,
and they're on a pretty good tear too. So again, that conference is going to be pretty interesting. It doesn't look like till February 1st is when Teton and Sugar-Salem play their first time, and yeah, I mean, it'll be pretty interesting to see who comes out of that district, because Teton's playing some really good basketball right now as well. So, but you know, Sugar-Salem, Shelley's a good team. I think Shelley's a kind of a sneaky team in that 4A conference in the Idaho Falls area. I think they're, you know, once you get into a tournament kind of action, that's not a team you want to play.
That's right. And so the big matchup, you know, when we talk about East Idaho for 3A basketball, there's 4 teams that are all really good, right? You've got Sugar-Salem and Teton from District 6. You've also got Marsh Valley and Snake River from District 5. Only the 2 district champions will officially get to go to state. And then the second place teams from District 5 and 6 will play each other in a play-in game. And whoever survives that then has to play a second play-in game.
Oh, yeah.
To get to state. It's the double play-in game. So long story short, between those 4 teams, there's going to be a really good team that has to sit at home for state basketball, and that's unfortunate. I will say, Sean, the big matchup I was looking forward to last night was Teton at Marsh Valley. And as I'm updating our scores this morning, the few scores we didn't get last night, I noticed that one was missing. So I sent a text to Kent Howell, the basketball coach at Marsh Valley. I said, hey, what was the score from your game last night? He said it's been moved to Thursday. So there you go. Get your popcorn ready. Tomorrow night, Thursday the 12th, Teton at Marsh Valley. Those are the top 2 teams in 3A according to our IdahoSports.com power rankings. And all 4 of those teams from East Idaho I just mentioned, all right there in our daily top 25 basketball rankings as well.
Man, that, you know, the second place game, right? The 2 second place game, that's going to be a game, man. Yeah. And they have to play another game, but that game, I mean, you know, pick it out of a hat of which team it's going to be, but man, that's going to be a good game, because, you know, like Snake River is no slouch either. And wow, yeah, that district tournament will be tough, and the road to state for the team that doesn't win outright it's going to be a battle. You'll definitely earn, you know, sometimes people are like, that team that gets out of that thing, that whole mess is going to be, we earned the spot where we're at. And the good news about that, kind of, I think, with Max Preps is, even if you have to go through the back door to get in, your ranking still might be higher, you know, than some other teams that make it in. So you could still have a good spot in the bracket. You know, I like brackets. So, in my thinking, at least with Max Preps, you're not going to just get pigeonholed into play the number 1 from somewhere. You're going to get put in there due to your ranking, and hopefully that works out, or or it turns into you're playing, you know, Sugar-Salem Teton for the 5th time in the quarterfinals. But anyways, that's a long ways off.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see all these teams battle it out. Certainly. On the girls' side, the Snake River girls have been turning some heads lately, and it's kind of the same deal, but not to as big an extent. But you've got kind of on the girls' side for 3A, Snake River and American Falls is kind of competitive in 3A girls, and then from District 5, and then of course, up in District 6, you've got Teton and Sugar, kind of the same story. It's a big four, but man, Snake River has really been turning heads. I wrote a little article about them after they beat Kimberly over the weekend. This is a team you've seen in person, Sean. Reese Baldwin, Camden Dunn. They've got size inside. They've got Riley Edlifson at the point. I mean, they've been on fire.
Yeah, Riley is everything they sell her to be. I've seen her in person. She is a dynamic player, and she's one of those players, and I talk about this with coaches all the time about basketball, is you would watch the game and think, yeah, she played really hard and she had a great game, and oh yeah, she had 26 points, and you'd be like, huh? Because it's not forced, it's in the flow of the offense. Yeah, you could hear, oh, she had 12 or 10 points. You'd be like, okay, but Snake River played Soda Springs on the 5th, and they won that game 56-43. And Riley had 26 points, 8 rebounds. She went 11-14 from the free throw line. She shot 75% from the field. She's a dynamic player, and when you have someone like that, I'm kind of big. I've been kind of big on Snake River, and that's mostly because I saw him play. And you've got her, and then like you said, Reese Baldwin. They can go inside. I think they're going to be a tough out every night.
Yeah, they are. They're a fun team to watch. That's for sure. That win over Kimberly, that's a team that they might see at state, certainly. And Kimberly's got the size to match Snake River. They've got, Mikkel Wright, who's 6 foot. She pretty much has a double-double every night. So how did Snake overcome that? Well, they made some threes, which helped. And then they really turned up the heat defensively. Their pressure defense is pretty tough to scheme against. And so that led to some easy buckets.
Yeah, they kind of run I call it like almost a full court press sometimes. They make it look like they're going to do it, and then right as you cross the half line, they trap and maybe put that pressure there. But they're really good at trapping the ball before the team could even get it across half line, and that causes a lot of turnovers. And everyone on the bench in Snake River can play, and I think that's pretty dynamic too. But yeah, interesting to see what happens later on.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how those teams battle down the stretch. Let's take a pit stop at 2A basketball real quick, Sean. On the boys' side, kind of a cool game. Bear Lake Firth, a rematch of the football championship that Bear Lake, of course, won earlier this fall. First football championship in Bear Lake history. Bear Lake is actually at Sugar-Salem tonight, so that'll be
a great game.
Yeah, great non-conference game. But so Bear Lake has really challenged themselves with their schedule. So when you look at their overall record, and you go, yeah, I don't know about, but they do this every year, Sean. We know this. We've seen this. We've seen this movie before. Bear Lake currently sitting at 9-2, and there's other teams that have more impressive records. But when you look at Bear Lake and who they've played and who they've beaten, their only 2 losses came to North Fremont a week ago, and which should be at the 2A state tournament, and they lost to Sugar-Salem by 1, 48-47. Otherwise, they've swept Firth this year. They've beaten Grace. They've beaten North Fremont. They went over and just destroyed Wyoming schools that are much larger than them at the Flaming Gorge Classic that we talked about a couple weeks ago. But that second Bear Lake, they've had a couple of close games lately, right? They beat Firth 52-49, and then they beat Grace 45-43. That Firth game in particular was pretty good.
Yeah, just last week it was, Bear Lake, and like you said, it's featuring most of the same athletes from that state championship football game, which is pretty cool. And Bear Lake kind of came out in the fourth quarter, had an 8-point lead, kind of went cold. Firth comes back, ties it up with less than a minute remaining in regulation. It gets really, really close. Bear Lake kind of gets like a jump ball, but calls a timeout, and comes down to a last second shot, which is some kind of familiar names, which I thought was interesting. You had Taysom Neal inbounded the ball to Keaton Carlson, who launched the 3-pointer to win the game as the time went out. So that's, you've heard those names before, but pretty cool ending. Full court pass to hit the 3-pointer to win with a time running out. And yeah, Bear Lake maybe should be on that list, Brandon. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the you're talking about the top 25 power rankings, right? I will say that they've had they've had a lot of close games.
Yeah.
And even though they're winning, there is some style points that get awarded in the IdahoSports.com power rankings, but they're close. They're like on the cut line. They're very close to breaking through. I can tell you that.
And it's very interesting because I think North Fremont's really good too. And they beat North Fremont once, and then it was Friday, last Friday, they lost to North Fremont. But I think North Fremont too is going to be a team that you're going to see later on as the year goes on somewhere in Boise.
I'm already, we talked about this during the football playoffs for 2A. And how I was lobbying to do it because I felt like that had the most quality teams. It's the same thing in 2A hoops. When you look at just in East Idaho, right? Firth and North Fremont and Ryrie and even West Jefferson. West J is playing really well and those are all District 6 teams. All of those teams, if any of those teams got to state, it wouldn't shock me. Then you go to District 5, Bear Lake, West Side. Aberdeen is
Aberdeen's kind of
quietly playing exceptionally well. So those are all really good teams. You look at Wendell over in District 4, they are playing exceptionally well. Melba, Coal Valley Christian, Nampa Christian is 10-2. They're all from District 3. And then up north, St. Mary's is kind of the crown jewel still. They've been to the last 2A state championship games. Orofino suffered their first loss of the season last night. And even Kellogg has good athletes. So again, I think 2A's got by far the best overall field. There is legitimately 14 to 15 teams that could all get to state.
And I just, you said Aberdeen. Aberdeen quietly beat North Fremont earlier in the season, and they lost a close one to Homedale and at the Pro Image Holiday Classic. So, you have an Aberdeen team that's kind of sneaking around in there too. So yeah, you got a lot of, I think that 2A boys basketball is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. So I'm already lobbying to do the 2A state basketball tournament for boys and girls, because I think that's going to be the most competitive by far. Let's go to 4A hoops. Hillcrest boys yawn continue to dominate over everybody. Shelley girls just keep on winning too. District 5 to me is where the drama is. You had finally in this 3-team district, finally some district games start up. Pocatello and Century meet up last week in both girls and boys basketball. Round 1 goes to the Thunder on both sides, and really 2 games that, I don't know, Sean, you probably saw them. I just was kind of score watching. Neither one seemed super close, but what do you take away from those?
In the boys game, it was close for a quarter, and then the difference is the Thunder just have so many players. You have Parker Smith, you've got you just got a lot of players, and they all can kind of shoot and play defense, and they were just kind of able to keep the scoring up, and you kind of just notice the Thunder are averaging about 70 points. And if you can find a way to hold them under kind of that 60 points, I think you're kind of in a better way to beat them. But the Century just couldn't keep them. They're just too many point scorers, and Century had won a bunch of games, and the boys have been doing really good. Luke Pentea was averaging almost 30 points over the last 5 games, and I don't even think he scored until the second half in that game. So credit to the Thunder defense. there. And for the girls, kind of the same thing, close first quarter, and then the Thunder just kind of muscled them out. You had Garza down low, and they just were hitting when Rogers and Luss are all hitting their shots. The Pocatello Thunder are a tough team, and we know that because they're the only team that's beaten Shelley. So when the Thunder are rolling per se, when everyone's able to kind of score, when they don't have to rely on one person to score, they're a tough girls team for sure.
Yeah, so that's we'll see now. Now Preston and Pokey play this week, and then we'll get
tonight.
Century. Preston, right?
Yeah, Preston Pokey tonight at the Pit. So that should be a great one. I think Preston is kind of an underrated team. They're kind of flying under the radar. I think they're pretty good. They played Blackfoot, which I think Blackfoot again is an interesting team in 4A too, because Blackfoot was one of the closest teams against Pokey. It was a pretty close score. And then Blackfoot went down to Preston, and we all know how hard it is to win in Preston and beat Preston at Preston. So kind of interesting, Blackfoot in the mix there. We know that's kind of Hillcrest's conference right now, but Blackfoot kind of interesting. But I think Preston's good. Talking to some different coaches, everyone's kind of like, yeah, no one's really talking about Preston, but they're really, they've got a lot of good pieces, and it's definitely a measuring stick tonight. Pokey's the top dogs right now, and you got to go to the Pit and win. And that's my all-time favorite place to watch basketball. I don't know if you've ever gotten to go there, Brandon, but it's my favorite. Oh, yeah. I love watching games there, and it's just loud, it's crazy, and it'll be a good one for sure.
So I've done. Oh, my computer's frozen up now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You just got a pretty funny face.
I mean, I do generally, but yeah, I've got too many tabs open right now, so my computer was like, "Hey, idiot!"
Oh yeah, and I forgot you did the radio. So yes, you've been to the Pit.
So I've done, but really in terms of high profile atmosphere games, I've done one crosstown game, Century Pokey, and it was rocking and rolling. And the only other game I've ever done at the Pit was during district play. It was a couple of years ago when it was the Great Basin 10. Okay. It was that humongous 10-team conference. And it was one of those loser out games that was on like a Saturday morning at like 11 o'clock. And it was Wood River against Pokey. And it was not a good, there was like 20 people.
You could hear yourself talk.
Yeah, it was not a good atmosphere. I will say all three of those schools, Century, Preston, and Pocatello, can get it rocking and rolling. I've been to Century for a ton of high profile, very intense games, and it gets very loud in there very quickly. And same with Preston. Those fans pack the gym. So in terms of home court advantage, those three all have fantastic, which is what makes regular season play and by virtue of the district tournament so enthralling, is that whoever can get that number one seed has the built-in advantage of having more home games at districts. And so that's why these regular season matchups, if you can steal a game on the road anywhere, doesn't matter where, it's so huge.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I think right now that I think the Thunder are kind of the team to beat. They've got all the pieces to the puzzle. They're playing good basketball. Julian Bowie, obviously, he played limited minutes against Century and still had 22 points. I think he was sick or something, they were saying, and quietly 22 points. And when you have performances like that, that's hard. It's hard to beat a team, right? They're one of their best players isn't 100%, and he still is able to do that. It's a difficult outing, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And other district play, Century girls played Preston last night, and they beat Preston girls, but Preston's girls are just hammered by injuries and kind of a tough season for them. But it'll be, if the girls tournament, when it comes down to Pokey and Century, that could be a pretty rocking game. Those get pretty intense as well, just with the 3-team district, and they're always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch all that unfold. And then we'll wrap up with 5A hoops, where Thunder Ridge, this was another game we had on East Idaho game night last night. The Thunder Ridge girls beat Highland pretty easily. They're still undefeated, 17-0. So fun to watch. Rigby is 14-2. When the heck are those two going to actually finally play each other? Well, it's coming up, Sean. They will play twice in the span of about 6 days. They will play on next Wednesday, January 18th in Rigby, and then they will turn around and play on the 26th. So what is that? How many days is that? That's 12 days, I guess. I'm not super good at math. Right? 18 to 26.
Yeah.
No, 8 days, right?
8 days, yeah.
8 days. Yeah. So basically over a week, they're going to play each other twice. Wednesday, the 18th in Rigby, and then the following Thursday, the 26th at Thunder Ridge to cap the regular season for both of those teams. Now, we still think both those teams can get to state, but regular season title on the line.
Yeah, I think, I feel like the biggest test maybe for Thunder Ridge all season is going to be this matchup with the Rigby, and it'd be really interesting to see what happens. I think Rigby's kind of a girls team that's a little bit under the radar just because of how well Thunder Ridge is doing, and I'm excited to see that game, and I'm just kind of looking at Rigby, and Rigby's played some good teams and done pretty well, but I think that will be the matchup everyone's kind of circling on their calendar for girls as far as 5A basketball here in East Idaho. Man, it'll be good. But right now, I don't know how you stop the Thunder. They've got just so many dynamic players. I mean, even if you're able to kind of shut down one, someone else is there, and they've got so many weapons. And it seems like they've been playing together forever, and it's kind of the combination of these girls working together, and it's got to be just so rewarding for them and their team.
Yeah, what a tremendous season they have had, certainly. So a lot of good hoops still on tap, and a lot of good East Idaho game night games still coming up as well. If you want to see the full schedule of games, just click on the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com, and you'll see the schedule, not just for East Idaho game night, but all of the games we are doing statewide. All right, Sean, another one in the books. What do you got on tap this week?
Tonight we got Century Thunder Ridge at the Snake Pit. I'll be there PAing that game, making fun of Travis Hobson. Hopefully he's there.
That's right.
Actually, that was a great game to start the season. It was Century versus Thunder Ridge, first game of the year. Century won on a last second kind of layup inbound play. So Thunder Ridge boys, I've been looking at them. They've kind of sneakily been playing themselves in to some better form. So that should be a pretty good game tonight. And then that's kind of it for as far as like things I have to do now. Right. I'm definitely going to keep watching what we've got on IdahoSports.com and keep my eyes open. But I'm going to be at the Century game, right? I'm going to have my phone with the Pokey Preston game on. I've already informed the staff that that's what will be happening, whether they care for it or not.
As a PA guy, you've got to be giving those score updates to the fans in attendance, right? That's your job. So
yeah, I will definitely be checking that out and get some ooh and ahs out of that. Because I'm sure everyone will want to know.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Sounds like a plan. Everybody enjoy the competitions wherever you're at for the rest of the week into the weekend. And we'll be back again next week to break it all down for you on another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.